Hello everyone, and welcome to Flare Bindery Tutorials, where I turn ordinary books into something truly magical. In this tutorial, you'll get a step-by-step video on how to rebind this book, along with a complete material list and downloadable templates to help you create your own copy of this stunning rebound edition. I'm here to craft books that not only tell stories, but also look iconic. So let's rebind this book with a little bit of magic and a whole lot of flair. And please remember, this tutorial is for personal use only, so please don't sell or resell any books or templates made from this content. This is all for educational and personal use purposes only. Now, gather your tools and let's begin. Alright, so let's begin by taking off the dust jacket and removing the hardcover case of this book. I prefer that you guys lay the book down and cut into the seams of the end papers. This makes it a little bit easier to remove that case. If you want to keep these end papers, at least part of them, just be really delicate when you cut. I didn't care too much because I was going to put new end papers on here, so I'm just going to rip those red end papers off right away. So I'm going to go ahead and cut into the book like so. We're going to go ahead and put the book into a book press because we're going to sand the edges first and paint the edges. This is kind of how I always do my rebinds. Normally I'll keep the book and the case, but being that this is hardcover, it does make it a little more challenging to paint the edges with a hardcover case in the way. So I wanted to cut it off first so we can paint those edges. What I'm doing now is just putting a line on the spine about halfway into the book, and I'm going to put an up arrow just so we know which way the orientation of this book should be going. This always helps me just know which way the book should be facing anytime I'm painting or applying the case or end papers or anything like that. So what you'll need now is your book press. Make sure that you're putting the facing side up towards the ceiling. And you can let this piece of book hang out of the press about half an inch. It doesn't have to be exact. So let's jump into Cricut Design Space and start uploading those page edge designs for this sprayed edge. Okay, so this is Cricut Design Space. I'm already in a new file. If you guys want to create anything new, just go to New and create a new canvas, a blank canvas. I uploaded this square here. If you want to put a square in, go to Shapes, and then go to the square, and then we'll minimize Shapes again. You can drag the square over. You can change the square color over here. You could put whatever color. I chose white. And then you can change the width and the height of the square. If you want it a specific size, you guys can uncheck this little lock here and change these manually. I'm going to delete this because I already have my square. You guys don't need to make a square, but that's just for reference. So let's go ahead and upload the page edges for Alchemised. So I have mine here. They're already uploaded. There should be a button in the description of this video that will lead you to templates for this so you can download these page edges and start uploading it. So if you guys want to do that really quick, and if you guys need to know how to upload, just go to Upload, Upload Image, and then you're just going to drag and drop your file in. So mine are pages here. I'm going to click Continue, Apply and Continue. We'll select Single Layer, Continue, and Upload. All right, so I'm going to erase this because I don't need it because I already have one, but we're going to go ahead and continue. So let's give you the measurements for the page edges. So if you guys did buy the hardcover edition of Alchemised without sprayed edges, this should fit your book. If it doesn't, you guys can manipulate the sizes up here. Remember, you can uncheck this box and make it fit appropriately to your page edges. I measured mine, so this should fit. So the measurements that I have for the width are 1.599 and the height are 9.171. So it should look something like this. So I'm going to hide my square. We're going to click this eyeball over here, and then we'll go to Make. So I'm going to use Smart Removable Vinyl for my decal for these sprayed edges. You can see here the width of this piece is almost 2 inches. So I'm going to cut a piece at 2 inches in width. And here it's about 9.5 inches, a little bit over. So I'm going to cut a piece of removable vinyl at 2 by 10 inches. So I'm going to leave this as it is. We'll click continue. And then I'm going to select popular and then smart vinyl matless removable vinyl. I'm going to set my pressure of my blade to more. And let's jump back into real life and start cutting this piece of material. For this stencil, I'll be using a Cricut Smart Vinyl Removable. This is what it looks like here. Again, this is in the material list. I'm going to cut a piece with my little cutter here at 2 inches. I'm just going to use the ruler that comes on this little gadget. So now we're going to go ahead and get a Cricut mat. I'm going to use this strong grip Cricut mat, and then I'm just going to load that piece of material right into the very corner of this mat, and I'll smooth it down. And then we'll go ahead and load it into the machine. So it should be ready to cut. So you guys should be good to go to load it into the machine. It's pretty easy to do. Just put it into the machine, make sure it is underneath these little rungs here, and then push that little flashing button and it'll pull that into the machine. Once it pulls it in, the play button will flash and just click play and it'll start cutting it. Once it's done, that little arrow will flash again and then you can push it and take off your material. It's pretty easy to do, not too hard. So yeah, let's go ahead and start weeding this. So what you're going to need is a weeder and some tweezers. Just take your time here when weeding. If you guys need to refer back to the page edge design to see what is staying and what is going, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just take your time because this is kind of fine, detailed weeding. I know some of the stars in here were hard to weed for me. I found that using the tip of the weeder and holding the stars down while I pull up this excess vinyl really helps keep those stars in place. Alright, so I'm going to throw away all this excess. A little trick of mine is I like to weed small things and put it onto my finger like here. It just makes everything go faster and then I clean up at the end. But this is what the design should look like. I know it's kind of hard to see, but we've got a hand here with some alchemy symbols hanging from strings. So I'm going to get my little cutter again here and I'm going to get the transfer tape. This is what it looks like. Again, it's in the material list underneath this video. So we're going to cut a 2-inch piece. So now what we're going to do is lay down the item we just weeded. I'm going to use a weight, so I'm just going to use my box cutter here and place it on top of that material. We'll go ahead and peel away that transfer tape. And I like to apply it to the surface I'm working on first, and then get my scraper and kind of scrape it on just to make sure that it is perfectly there and it's not going to move. And then we'll go ahead and center this as best as you can underneath this strip of transfer tape. And then go ahead and start scraping on that tape onto the removable vinyl. I'll scrape halfway, then move my blade out of the way and then continue scraping down. A little trick I like to do here is I like to keep the scraper on top of the transfer tape while I'm pulling up. This kind of helps grab onto that material underneath. You can see here I do kind of go back and forth because it wasn't grabbing stars, so I would recommend you do the same thing. Just do a little back and forth. It will eventually pick everything up, but yeah, this is what it should look like in the end. So I want you guys to store this and with the sticky side facing up towards the ceiling. And we're going to jump into my garage and then start sanding all the edges. So in my garage here, we're going to be using a Black & Decker sander to sand the edges. Again, this is in the material list. I am going to start with this P120 grit disc first. This really eats up those edges really nicely. So I know there's ridges in the edges. We're trying to get rid of those. So be sure to wear protective equipment as well. I'm going to be wearing this respirator. Again, this is in the material list. So we'll just go ahead and start sanding. Sand to the best of your capability. Just try to get rid of all of those ridges and the page edges. You want it as flat as possible to apply this decal. So once you do that, we're going to switch over to the P400. This is kind of like my finisher sanding disc. I really do enjoy this. It does really make those edges nice and smooth and flush. It just makes it way easier to lay down your decal and spray paint. It just paints really smooth and nicely. So once you do that, take the book out of the book press, and we're going to go ahead and lightly tap the book because you can see we've got a lot of excess dust here. I am going to be using this little air blower here. Again, this is in the material list. You don't need to buy it. A spray can of air will suffice, but I'm going to use this. I really do enjoy this because I don't have to keep buying cans of air. So just go ahead and start blowing off all that excess dust off those edges. Once you do that, we're going to put the book back on the book press with the cover facing up towards the ceiling. And we're going to put it into the press and make sure that it is flush against the book press. And it is in the right direction. So we've got the decal here. I'm going to center it to the best of my capabilities. And then I'll go ahead and use my finger to smooth it down first. And then I'll go ahead and grab my scraper and start scraping that design onto the page edges. Really try to get every inch of this design. I know the lines are very thin, so try to make sure that you are working that removable vinyl into those page edges. Once you feel confident, go ahead and start pulling up that transfer tape. And the vinyl should stay right in place. Sometimes it does lift, so be sure to tap down. You see here I'm tapping on that vinyl because some of it lifted up. It does happen sometimes, but don't be alarmed. So it should look something like this. So we're going to do an ombre effect. I'm going to start with this flat black paint from Rust-Oleum. And we're also going to be using this red paint here, a low odor red. Again, this is all in the material list. So we're going to paint the top black. As you can see here, take your time, make sure you are staying away a nice distance. Don't forget to paint the top of the book. And then for the bottom of the book, we'll do that red. So I'm going to paint that red here. I try to do it as center as possible to make it really ombre really beautifully. So, and then don't forget to paint underneath that book as well. Try to get every inch. And this is a little trick, but be sure to clean off the nozzle once you're done off of both of those cans. So let's jump back into Cricut Design Space. So by now, you guys should have your book in the book press drying just from the paint. So while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to be doing custom end papers for this one. You guys will see later in this tutorial, the paper that I used for this rebind was from 12 by 12 cardstock shop. I will also have that in the links in the description of this video. So yeah, I want to do red foil on top of those end papers. So I know it doesn't really make sense now, but it will very soon. So we're going to go ahead and cut these. So if you guys need to go into the description of the video and download these templates as well, be sure that you are downloading the correct ones for each specific area. Like I know this hand is identical to this one, but this one was specific for the page edges. You can see how it is a lot skinnier compared to this one. This one's a lot bigger. So this is the Alchemised end paper hand. So yeah, go ahead and upload that. And then I also have this quote here. You guys don't have to put this quote if you don't want to. You can put a different quote if you'd like. I'm still going to add it to the downloadable templates, so you guys can download it if you want and apply it to your rebind. So yeah, so go ahead and upload those. So now that you guys have those uploaded, I'm going to go ahead and give you the sizes of these. The Alchemized end paper hand, the width is 2.588 and the height is 9.109. And then the quote, we have the width at 4.875 and the height is 3.314. So I'm going to do this twice. I kind of want to have it on both end papers with the same quote. This is completely up to you. You don't have to. I'm just going to do it so that way we have the same thing on the front and the back. And it's a pretty straightforward and easy rebind. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hide this square. I made this square just to give me reference because I needed to know how wide this end paper is going to be. So I'm just going to hide it. Now I want you guys to click and drag and select both of these. So now you can see they're both selected here. And then we're going to do Command D to duplicate it. I'm going to drag this over and we're going to cut both of these files. So we're going to need some red foil. So before we go ahead and start to make it, I'm going to click and drag this. I'm going to group them and hide them. So we're going to be focusing just on these. So let's go to make. And immediately I'm going to hit mirror. And then we're going to go ahead and start spacing these out. I like to space mine out just to make sure that when we do cut these out ourselves, that we are making sure that we're not cutting anything, no designs are cutting into one another and shit like that. So yeah, this looks good. So we just need one sheet of red foil, it seems. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. I'm going to go to popular, everyday iron-on, and I'm going to set my pressure to more. You guys have seen earlier, I always keep setting the pressure to more. My blade is kind of dull. I'm just crazy. I have a bunch of new blades. I just never replace it because I'm like, it's still cutting, so I'm just going to keep using it to the bitter end. But anyways, if you have a new blade, a fresh new blade in your Cricut machine, you don't need to put more. You can keep it at defaults, or you can even do less. I'm going to do more. So let's jump back into real life and load our mat with the red foil. All right, so this is the red foil sheet I'm going to be using. Be sure that the red foily part is facing towards the sticky part of the mat. And we'll go ahead and center it into these lines. I'll smooth it out with my bone folder here. Again, all of this is in the material list, the bone folder, the foil, all of that. Even the mat, I believe. So once you get it nice and smooth, we are going to go ahead and put it into our Cricut machine and let it cut. So mine cut off camera. This is what it's looking like. So I'm just going to get some scissors and start cutting out these designs. I like to have separate pieces, so you should have 4 separate pieces after cutting this. So I have them here. They're all cut and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and start weeding these designs out. You're going to need your weeder and some tweezers nearby. And we'll just go ahead and start weeding. If you guys want to skip over this part, you can. If you need to pause, please feel free. I know I'm going through this really, really quickly. It's really not that complicated. I know a lot of binders out there try to make things really complex, but it's really not. Just take your time, refer back to the design and Cricut Design Space to see what stays and what goes. But if you guys do notice, like I said earlier, this is the same design. It's just a bigger, wider design for those page edges. Yeah, this is the story of my life. You see here, I keep holding down those stars as I'm pulling up because they're so small. So I'll hold it down and pull, and it'll leave that design behind. So this is what it should look like so far. So please feel free to pause and continue weeding out the rest of the designs. I do so off camera. So I went ahead and took my book out of the book press. It was in there about 20 minutes. So we're going to need a weeder and some tweezers for this next part. I recommend going underneath these removable decals and picking up. Just be really slow. You don't want to pick any of the paint off. And then go back in with your tweezers and pull off that material. It's pretty easy. Just take your time. So this is what it should look like. I think they came out like beautifully. It's so freaking cool. And I love cracking those edges. That's like so satisfying. So what we're going to do now is cut the boards, the cover boards for this book. So what I want you to do is measure the width of this book. So mine came in at 6 inches in width. And then we have the height. Mine measured at 9 inches and a quarter. So what you want to do is add a 1/4 inch to that. So 9 1/2. Always add a 1/4 inch to your height when cutting your boards, at least in these tutorials. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making my marks 6 inches in width. Remember, we need 2 cover boards and a spine piece. So I've got my 2 measurements here. We're going to do 9.5 as well for the height. And then I'm going to get my Mr. Pen here, my little T-square, and then make sure that these lines are straight. So we'll go ahead and draw those lines. And then I'm going to label these right here. I'll put Alchemized left or L with an up arrow, just so we know which direction that these should be going. And then we'll go ahead and get our cork back ruler with our blade and start cutting these out. So we've got the cover boards here. They're all cut and ready to go. Now we need to get the measurement for the spine piece. So I'm going to take one piece of board. I'm going to take the right one here and place it against the book. And we're going to measure the book with that cover board. And that will give you your measurement for your spine piece. So I have a piece of board here. I'm going to go ahead and get another board. And I'm just going to get the height so that way I don't have to keep measuring. And then we'll go ahead and measure the width. Again, I'll get my Mr. Pen and make a straight line, and then I'll go ahead and cut those out. Again, I am writing the name of the book with an up arrow just so I know which way everything should be facing. So go ahead and cut that out. So now we have all 3 pieces cut for this book. So now we have the end papers here. This ombres from black to red, just like the page edges. I made sure that I found one that kind of fit our theme and design. I got really lucky with these ones. So we don't need to cut the width because this book is 6 inches in width. And when we do the measurement for the end papers, you have to double your measurement. So 6 times 2 is 12. These papers come in 12 inches in width, period. So all we need to do is find the height. So I'm getting the book here, and I'm making a mark of the exact height of the book here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this back in my little paper cutter and cut that at a straight line. So now we have the paper here. I'm just dry fitting it to make sure that it is square and flush with the book. So you need to do the exact same thing with this other end paper. So I did that off camera. I've got both of them cut here. Again, if you guys need to pause, please feel free because I am going through this really fucking fast. All right, so let's go ahead and put these foils on. I put foils on one, so we're gonna do one together. So I'm gonna mirror these because I kind of want to make them look slightly different. So let's go ahead and fold it in half. I'm going to get my bone folder and make that little crease here. And again, just make sure that everything is facing the correct way. So you see how it ombres black to red. Make sure it is doing the exact same thing as the end papers. So I'm going to put the quote on the left and the hand design on the right. I kind of want it to be kind of an opposite feel because when you open the book, you'll immediately see the quote first. So I put my mini press at medium heat for this. Try to center this design as best as possible. I just eyeballed it and I think it looks fine. If you want to be really meticulous, you can, but so go ahead and iron that on. Again, this is a hot peel foil. That means after you iron it on, you can immediately peel it off. So I'm going to get some clean parchment paper here, and I'm just going to hit this really quick just to make sure that it is sealed. You guys see how fast I hit that? That's all the time you need. You don't need to linger with that iron on top of there. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with this quote on the left side. Again, just center it as best as possible. If you want to be meticulous, you can. Try to find the exact center and make it as center as you can. I'm just eyeballing it. Anytime I iron, I do try to stay in the center in the beginning. I start in the middle and then I work my way out. This just assures that this is going to lay appropriately. And we'll just peel that right off. So it should look something like this. If you guys want to change the quote, you can. You don't have to use this quote. You can put something else. I am going to hit it again with parchment paper over it. So yeah, that's what it looks like. I think it looks cool. Again, you don't have to use this quote. You can use something totally different. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and glue these end papers on. I'm just dry fitting it again to make sure that it does fit and it is flush on all sides of this book. I am right-handed, so I'm going to turn it upside down. This just makes gluing easier. I'll go ahead and get some clean parchment paper and I'll place the book on top. So we're going to add a thin line of glue right along this ridge here. So I'll get my small silicone paddle brush, again in the material list, along with this pH neutral glue that I'm using. And we'll just make a really thin line, basically where those previous end papers were. We're just replacing it. So remember, we got to flip this upside down because the book is upside down. So the quote part will be where the book is, and the hand will be on the opposite side. So this is how I designed it. You can do it the other way around if you want. If you want to have the hand on the book and the quote on the other side, that's completely up to you. So I'm going to get my finger, I'm going to run my finger down where the glue would be underneath these end papers. And you see me go off camera with my hand. I keep cleaning off my fingers. You don't want any glue anywhere. So I'm going to hold in these 4 points for 15 seconds. Just allow that glue to get tacky. And then I'll go in with my bone folder and smooth over those areas of where the glue is. Again, clean off your bone folder, make sure that it is not covered in glue. And then I'll take my finger and run it down that spine piece to get rid of that excess glue. And it kind of seals it in a way. So we'll flip the book over and we're going to do the exact same thing. So if you guys need to pause, please feel free. I know I am going through this really, really quickly. I hope you guys are enjoying the tutorial. Please leave a comment if you have any questions. All right, and then we'll lay down that end paper. Again, just try to make sure that it is square and flush all around that book. And then again, hold for 15 seconds. And then we'll smooth it out with our bone folder. So I'm going to put another clean piece of parchment paper on top of this. And I'm going to stack a bunch of books on top of it to act as a weight. I am going to let this sit for probably 15 minutes. And if you want, you can add way more books. This is just like my go-to. So it should look something like this. So we've got the end papers on. What we're going to do now is start putting on the headbands, the tailbands, the ribbon, and the mull. So we'll go ahead and put it into our book press here. Leave the spine hanging out about 1/2 inch. It doesn't have to be exact, but a nice overhang is always good. So it should look something like this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and set the book press upright. And we're going to go ahead and start cutting the mull first. So this is mull. This is what it looks like. This is going to be for the back spine part of this text block. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out. I like to have 2 inches on either side of this spine. I'm just eyeballing it. If you want to be exact, you can do that. I don't care. I just eyeball a lot of this shit. So I'm just going to cut that out. And then I'm also going to cut away this excess material. It is very long, so I'm going to cut away probably 2 inches because it's so fucking long. Alright, so it should look something like this. You can see that there is kind of some room from the top and bottom of the text block here. So it should look something like this. Next, what we're going to do is use some head and end bands. This is the color I'm going to use. There is an assorted pack in the material list as well. If you don't want to use this color, you can use red. You can use any color you want. It doesn't matter. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting it flush against the spine and I'm just cutting it. You want it to be exact measurement to the spine. So next we're going to use ribbon. I'm going to use this kind of maroon suede ribbon. I'm going to put it right up to that line that we drew earlier in the tutorial. And I'm going to wrap it underneath the book like so. And kind of give myself some slack at the top of the book. And then I'll go ahead and cut it. We're going to be adding a charm to this book, so I do want it to hang a little bit longer once it is complete. So now that that's done and cut, we're going to go ahead and start gluing it all on. So I'm going to glue right here on the spine underneath this line. And you see here this ribbon, there's a satin part and there's a flat part. I want you guys to glue the flat part to this text block. So just like so. And I'll just run my finger along it. Now we're going to go ahead and apply some glue in these areas here at the top of the book and the base of the book. We're going to be gluing those head and tail bands on. These should be an exact fit. If they are a little bit longer, you guys can cut them. They should just be the width of the spine of this text block. So once those are on, we're just going to get some more glue and put it on top of those head and tail bands. And once you guys do this, please be sure to check that there is a little bit of an overhang with these head and tail bands. You can see how it is just barely overhanging over that text block there. It should look something like this. Alright, so let's go ahead and start applying a bunch of glue to the spine here. We're going to be laying down that mole next. So I'm just going to add a thin layer of glue, and then I'll put the mole right on top of it. Try to center it as best as you can while keeping 2 inches of this material on either side of the spine of this text block. Now you can be very heavy-handed here with the glue. I am going to be gluing a lot onto this mole here. So I'm really saturating that mole. And just try to be very strategic of where you're placing this. You don't want to go outside of the lines of this text block. So try to keep it right in that spine area. I do go in with my fingers and I do take away or rip away any of that excess. You can see here I'm just rubbing along that spine to clean off that excess. Okay, so this part is going to be tricky. We're going to go ahead and start printing onto our book cloth. I did this design in Photoshop. I applied one piece already to the book boards. So this is going to be for the cover of the book. So I'm going to be using this red book cloth. Again, this is in the material list. So I'm just going to roll that out. I am going to measure 11 inches down. So I'm going to go to the very edge of that book cloth and measure 11 inches. I do this a couple times. I'm trying to make sure that we are right on the money at 11 inches. I think I do it like 4 times. I don't fucking know. And then I draw a straight line connecting all of those lines. What I'm trying to do here is make basically sheets that are 8.5 by 11 because most printer paper is 8.5 by 11. So I try to design this book specifically for you guys. So if you have a regular printer at home, you should be able to do this, hopefully. All right, so what I'm doing now is measuring the width at 8.5, and then we'll draw a line connecting all of those. And then you can start cutting them out. We got really lucky with this book cloth. Because of how we measured it, each of these pieces will be 8.5 by 11, so you don't have to measure twice. Unfortunately, you do need to measure it again. You need 3 pieces. So I've got 2 here and 1 here that's already glued on. So for this tutorial, I'll be using the Canon Pixma IX6820. This prints 13 by 27. If you have a regular printer, I'm assuming it'll print 8.5 by 11, so you guys should be in the clear to make this at home. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So we want the cloth part facing outwards towards you. So I'm just going to load it in here. I'm going to go ahead and exchange these cartridges. So I'm going to pause here. These cartridges I bought off Amazon. I do really like them. They do fit my machine. These are refillable cartridges. I did get this because pigments work best, at least for me, when I'm printing onto book cloth. So I did purchase these. If you guys do want to get your own, I would recommend you looking for refillable cartridges that fit your specific printer. I will also say probably purchase some syringes and wear gloves when you are filling your refillable cartridges, because this does stain your skin. It will stain your surfaces. So you need to be very careful. My roommates thought I was a druggie because I had needles in my room. And I was like, this is for my ink cartridges, you guys. So you're going to need some syringes to extract the ink from these bottles and then place them into your cartridges. You can see here I am using this black. It's premium ink. This is in the material list as well. This comes in a pack of 4. They've got 4 different colors. I'm just changing out the black because this is a very darker print. So I'm just going to be using black only. So let's jump into my computer and go ahead and start printing this file. Okay, so now that we have the end papers on, the head and tail bands, the ribbon and the mole, we're pretty much ready to go to start printing on the book cloth. So I did this tutorial for you guys so you can print it at home on a regular printer. I did this design on 8.5 by 11, which is a normal pretty much letter basic paper sheet. So you should be able to print this on your printer. I'm using a Canon Pixma IX6820. So we're going to go ahead and print this on that one. So I'm just going to go to File, Print. All right, and I'm going to put Fill Entire Paper. I'll go to Printer Options, we'll go to Quality. I'm going to do the media type as photo paper, matte photo paper, and the print quality I'm going to do high. Click OK. All right, so we're pretty much ready to print. Remember, you guys, you have to print this 3 times. I know it can be tedious. You guys should have cut out 3 8.5 by 11 sheets of book cloth. Each of those sheets is going to be used to cover the cover boards and then the spine piece. So we're going to go ahead and print this. So I'm going to print this and then jump over to real life. So this can be a bit of a risk for your printer, you guys. Proceed with caution. I am here loading it into the printer. The printer kept going back and forth because it's trying to measure this cloth to assure that it is 8.5 by 11. But it did print successfully, so it should look something like this. So I have the 3 pieces here, one that's already covered and one we're going to use for the spine and the other cover board. So I'm going to take a 15mm spacer and we're going to add this measurement to the top back part of the book cloth. This is on the paper side of the book cloth, so I am going to get that cover board and kind of flush it up to that book cloth here and to the 15mm spacer. And I'm going to move that board and then we're just going to draw a line. What I'm trying to do is try to find the center point of this design. So that way, when we do glue it on, it will look symmetrical and it won't look weird. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to fold this cloth in half, and we're going to center it right up to that center pillar of this design as best as you can. You see here, I am going to make a little crease with my bone folder to try to find that center. So it should look something like this. I'm just going to go ahead and crease it really quick. And then that should be the very center of the design. It should be right at the point of that castle, whatever roof. So what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to find the center for this spine piece. I'm eyeballing it. It turned out fine. If you guys want to be very particular, you can find a specific measurement for this. I didn't. I was like, girl, it's just as fine. Like, we're going to be fine. So it looked pretty centered to me. So I was like, okay, this is good. So we're going to go ahead and glue this on. I am gluing the side that does not have writing. So you'll see here, I'm going to go ahead and glue directly onto the back of the book cloth, right into that little traced rectangle that we drew. And then we'll just lay the spine piece right on top of it. I'll lightly press down, we'll flip it over, and then use our bone folder to smooth out that crease that we made and any glue bubbles that are underneath that book cloth. So just take your time here. Again, if you guys need to pause, please feel free. Again, I am going through this really, really quickly. So I'm going to get a dry cloth here and wipe away that excess glue because I did go a little overboard with the glue. I always do. That rhymed. Anyways, so we're going to get our 15 millimeter spacer here again. I'm going to put it at the base of that spine and I'm just going to cut it with my rotary cutter. So what we'll do now is glue this little tab over. So glue right inside that little rectangle. And then we'll flip it up. And then start laying it down with our bone folder here. Again, try to clean off your bone folder. This can get pretty messy. You just want to make sure that you don't get any glue onto the cloth part of this case because you will see it and you cannot wipe it off. I have noticed if you do add any water or get any glue on any of the cloth that's been printed on, the ink will run. So just be mindful of that. All right, and we're going to do the same thing at the bottom. I do that off camera, so I have it here. What I'm going to do now is get my ruler. We need the thickness of the ruler on either side of the spine. So I'm going to place it against the spine here and get my rotary cutter and just cut off that excess material. We're going to do that on the other side as well. So make sure you do both sides. So it should look something like this. So what we're going to do now is add glue along the side pieces of this spine. I know it's kind of weird. I'm just going to add glue here because we are going to be creasing that cloth right into that spine piece. So you can see here there's kind of glue just along the ridge of the spine. I do this in most of my binds, but being that this is a 3-piece bradle bind, it's a little bit different. All right, so I'm going to get some parchment paper that's clean, lay it down, and we'll flip that piece of spine over. And then get your bone folder and start creasing in that spine piece. We're really trying to make this really crispy, really sharp and defined. That's why I put the glue there, so that way it'll grab onto it and it'll adhere and keep that crease intact for the longevity of the book. So it should look something like this. So I'm going to set this off to the side and let it dry, and we'll start working on the other cover of this rebind. So we did one already. We are going to do the right side now. So you see here we do have part of it glued over because it's going to be glued like this. I hope that makes sense. So we're going to glue this one on this side. But it is important that you do glue that tab over prior. So again, I'm going to get that 15mm spacer. We are going to put it at the very top back part of that printed book cloth and then draw a straight line. And again, we will crease the book cloth, try to find the center. It's pretty much repeating the same step we did for the spine. Now this time I'm going to be more meticulous because this is a cover, so people will be looking at this more. I found the center, but we need 3 inches on either side because remember, our cover board is 6 inches in width. So I'm going to get my ruler and place the ruler 3 inches will be right at the center. So I will draw a line on the left here, you can see, and then I'll draw a line at 6 inches because, hello, it's 6 inches in width. I'm going to do that again. I go a little bit lower here, again placing 3 inches right in the center and making my marks again. I just want to draw a line to connect one another so we kind of have a template of where this cover should be sitting. So I'm going to get my ruler here, connect those lines like so. So see here, it should fit perfectly right here in the center. So we're going to go ahead and start gluing that. Again, you guys, if you need a pause, please feel free. I'm going through this really fast. I know this video is like an hour and like 20 minutes, but like if I didn't do it like this, it would be way longer. So, all right, so we're just going to go ahead and place that cover board right in that little template area. I'll press it down with my hand, we'll flip it over, and then use our bone folder to start smoothing it out. I would say first thing you should do is try to hit that crease that we made, because if you don't, the glue will dry and it'll be a very prominent crease. So try to get that first, and then work your way out over the rest of the cover board. So we're going to flip this over. Again, check your surface, make sure there's no glue. I'm going to get my 15mm spacer, and we're going to cut around the entire cover board. So we'll go ahead and cut all the excess pieces off. You see me here doing it on the left and right side. I do it on the bottom as well. So once you've cut off those excess pieces, we are going to get our corner cutter here, and we're going to go ahead and cut off the corners all around this entire board. Again, this tool is in the material list, so. All right, so it should look something like this. So we need to glue over the tab that will be getting glued to the spine piece. So you see this one, it is glued. This is for the right side, and this one's going to be for the left side. So we need to glue the opposite. So you see we need to glue the right side of this board. Does that make sense? I hope so. It's kind of mirrored. So I'm going to move that to the side. Make sure we are gluing the right side of this. So I'm going to get some glue, and we'll go ahead and glue down that tab. Again, if you guys need to pause to make sure that you are gluing down the right side, please make sure you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and lift that up, give a little crease, and then we'll start pulling over that tab and gluing it onto the board. And I'm going to get a dry cloth and clean away any excess glue. Okay, so by now our spine piece should be nice and dry, but what we need to do is create a hinge gap. So you see there's a little line here, it's kind of faint. It is there. That's going to be the space for our hinge gap. You need to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to do that right here on camera with you guys. So I'm going to go over 5, I guess, millimeters they're so small, so you need to go over from the very edge of the spine, and you need to go 5 millimeters uh, away from it. So I am doing that here. All you need to do is count 5 ticks, you guys. 5 ticks on this little ruler, and that should be enough space. I did 5 here. I would recommend you probably do 7, maybe. The book does open fine. I just feel like it should be a little more loose. So I would say do 7. If you want to do 5, that's fine. But I'm going to do 7. So I did repeat that step, making that 5 millimeter mark. Again, I recommend you do 7 on the other side. And now I'm just going to draw a line connecting both of those. So that is where we're going to be gluing. We're going to be gluing outside of the lines on either side. So you can see here, we're pretty much close to gluing this case together. They're going to glue on like this. And all the lines are going to align. They should. So before we do that, we need to tuck in these corners on both of those cover boards. I'm doing it here with my bone folder. I highly recommend you do this before we start gluing this motherfucker together. So you just want to tuck them in just like this, crease them right in, and be sure to do it with the other one as well, because I need to do that one. So, and I'll do that off camera. All right, so we're ready to go. We have all our measurements. We made it so far. So I'm gonna get my Mr. Pen, my giant heavy ass T-spacer, and I'm going to place it at the bottom of the spine piece. This is just going to assure that, hey, the bottom is level. It's not going to be crooked. So what I want you guys to do is try to flush up the bottom piece here onto Mr. Pen. I know it's going to feel kind of awkward because you can't really see. It's a lot of feeling. You can feel that it is level here at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and start gluing. Try to stay with me here. So go ahead and grab your small silicone brush, and we are going to apply glue directly to the cloth of the spine piece. Again, you guys, try not to go into surpass that line that we drew. That is our hinge gap space. We don't want any glue in there. This is going to be visible. That hinge gap will be visible. You don't want any glue showing. So try not to get it over the edge. All right, so I'm going to get my Mr. Pen again, making sure it is flush to the bottom. And then we'll go ahead and place that cover board on, pushing it right against Mr. Pen, but also making sure it is right against that line that we drew for the hinge gap. So we'll flip it over and then I'll smooth out that glue. Again, you guys, if you need to pause, please feel free. So now we're going to glue down these little tabs here. We'll start with the small ones first, and then we'll do the large one last. So go ahead and add my glue. I'll lift it up, do a little left and right, and then start pulling that tab over with my bone folder, really smoothing out that glue, trying to make it as flat and flush as possible. Again, try to clean off your bone folder in between passes, because mine got a lot of glue on it. It always does. This is what's looking like so far. You see how everything's kind of aligned? We've got a beautiful, good hinge gap. So this will allow the book to open and close easily. So I glued that other small tab off camera. Now we're going to move on to the large tab. So remember earlier we did tuck in those corners earlier for the opposite side. We're going to do the same thing on this side. So make sure you tuck those corners in and crease them. And then we'll go ahead and glue. And we'll start pulling over that tab. I'm just going to lift it and do a little left and right crease. And then we'll pull this over. Again, you guys, pause if you need to. I know we're going so fast. All right. So that was just one side. You got to do another side. You have to do the other side. So that was one side. I do the other side off camera, but this is what it's looking like so far. It's very seamless. It looks pretty good. So you need to repeat that same step, but for the other side. So you can see it'll be like that. So I did it off camera. I did let it dry for about 20 minutes. So this is what it's looking like. We've got our case made. And then, hey, the text block is ready to go as well. I think I let that sit for 25 minutes too, maybe 30. So everything is nice and dry. We've got the head and end bands on, the ribbon, the mole. So we're ready to case the book in. We're going to be gluing this book together and making it final. So I'm going to dry fit it first. I like to put it into the case first with all the arrows facing the same direction. What I'm checking here is making sure that there is an even amount of space between the text block and the edge of the case. You can see here there's a nice distance that goes around the entire book. You see how it's kind of even all the way around. It just sits in the case beautifully. I think this came out really amazing. So I'm just really trying to find the center here. I'm putting it on its spine, and I'm going to hold that place, set the book down, and we'll go ahead and open it. I'm going to get a scrap piece of paper here. We'll put it into the end papers like so. And we're going to start gluing underneath the mole first. So glue underneath first. Then lay the mole down on top of it, and then glue on top of the mole. And then I'll get some more glue and I'll add more glue onto the rest of the end paper here. When applying this glue, try to go off of the page. Make sure your strokes are going right off the page. You see here I'm going off, off, off. Never go back onto the page because sometimes the glue will go underneath and onto the inside of the end paper, and you don't want that. So just go right off the page like so. I'll get a clean piece of parchment paper here off to the side. We'll lift this up, pull out that scrap, and replace it with that clean piece of parchment paper. And then we're going to pull the case right over on top of it like so. And I'm going to thumb this text block into that case. I'm really trying to push it in and make sure that it is seated exactly where it needs to be. And then I'll lightly press the top of the case. So carefully here, you want to pick up the book, kind of pinch it to make sure that it's not moving around, and flip it over. And we're going to do the exact same shit on this side. It's really not that complicated. I don't know why everyone tries to make it complicated. So yeah, if you guys need to pause, I did that really fast. Thanks for editing. So we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to pinch this book. Make sure that it is pushed really deep into that spine of the case. And we'll go ahead and grab our book press and put it into a book press. I do let it sit for about 3 hours in the book press minimum. You can leave it in overnight. It's highly recommended you allow 24 hours for it to fully cure. Side note, before you tighten this fully, be sure that your spine piece is resting outside of the bookcase or the book press. You can see here it is slightly overhanging outside of the book press. There is a reason you don't want that inside of the book press, because if you do tighten it, it will crush the spine, and you don't want that. So try to let it overhang just ever so slightly out of the press. So let's jump into Cricut Design Space and upload these designs. Okay, so by now you guys should have your book in the book press. So while it's drying, we can go ahead and start uploading all of the templates and cover designs for this rebound book. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag. I'm going to group all of these and hide them. and we're just going to focus on the book itself. So these are what the cover designs are looking like. I did all of these in Photoshop, some of them in Procreate, and I did put some little cranes here. I know this is Alchemized and it's a totally different story, but it's kind of paying homage to the original. So now that we have all this in here, I'm going to have you guys go in the description of this video or underneath the video and download all of the templates for this cover. So go ahead and download all of those and then start uploading them. Again, it's just the same way as we've been uploading since the beginning of this video. And once you guys have all of your templates uploaded, try to put them in this order here. This is how I have it in order on my Cricut design space. And I would hope you guys would do the exact same order here. Once you get it in this order, you can start altering all of the sizes. We have got the width and the heights. They're all here. So if you guys want to pause this video and upload everything and start putting them in order and changing all of the width and the heights for each one of these templates, please feel free. If you don't want to pause, then please go ahead. You can download this template with all of the sizes here underneath this video as well. So I'm going to minimize this. Okay, so once you guys have everything in the correct order and sized the correct way, I want you guys to start fitting everything into one another like so. You guys can see how all of the black fits inside of the gold. And how all of the gold is kind of perfectly centered within one another, even the titles as well, the author's name, everything like that. And if you guys are having issues centering everything, you can go up to your name and click settings and then go to canvas. And then you can click snap to align, click yes, and done. This will help you it'll snap everything into place and center everything. Sometimes it can be annoying, so I'll turn it off. For mine, it's on right now because it has been working. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. I'm going to go ahead and hide all of my red squares because we don't need this. So this is what it's looking like. This is a design here without the red background. So before we start cutting this, the only thing we really need to do is start welding all of our gold pieces together. You can see here that the spine is not welded, it's just one piece. You can take it and drag it around. I'm going to undo that. Same thing with the title, that's also its own piece. So we're going to go ahead and put that back. So what you want to do is we want to start welding all of those pieces. I believe it's just those two, the spine and this. So I'm going to click on the spine, we'll start there. And then I'm going to hold Command and click Alchemize Spine Gold. So now those are both selected. So we're going to go down here to Combined, Weld, and I'm going to rename it Alchemized Spine Gold. All right, so now that is one piece. So you can see here, if you take it, you can move it around and whatever. I'm going to bring that back. All right, and now we're going to do the cover. So we'll click Alchemized Cover Title, and then hold Command and click Alchemized Cover Gold. Go down to Combined, Weld. I'm going to rename it Alchemize Cover Gold. And again, that should just be one piece. All right. So all of this is pretty much ready to go. Remember, you guys, we are going to be cutting 3 different colors: black, gold, and red, because we have our character here. They do have red on. I'm going to cut this out of red foil. You guys, if you don't want to, you can do it in gold. That's completely up to you. I'm going to do mine in red. It kind of goes with the theme of the whole book. So everything's ready to go. So let's go to make. Now Cricut will start separating all of the files that are red, gold, and black. I changed the colors of all of my files to assure that these are the correct colors that go with the design that I created. So these are all black here. So I'm just going to space these out. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. This is so small. Let's go over here. Let's turn mirror on. Yeah, make sure you guys go through and turn mirror on all of these templates here. All right, I'm going to space this out. Okay. All right, so it looks like we're ready to go. So I'm going to be doing 3 different colors. I'm going to do a matte black HTV. We'll do a red foil, and then obviously gold. For the matte black HTV, I am going to cut this piece myself. I'm probably going to cut it to 11 inches in height and 12 inches in width, so that way we can cut out this whole design with no issue. This kind of is unfortunate. I do want this to be red so bad, so I'm going to keep it. I do have some red foil on hand. Again, all of these materials are going to be in the list underneath of this video, so you guys can get the foils as well. Okay, so let's start with the black. Click continue. I'm going to set base material to popular. We'll do everyday iron on, and I'm going to do default pressure to more and remember. All right, so we're ready to go. So let's go ahead and load our material. Okay, so we have the matte black HTV here. I also have the gold foil HTV that we're going to be using. And then we also have red as well. Again, this is all in the material list. So I'm going to use my strong grip mats. Remember, put the shiny side facing the sticky part of this mat. It needs to stick to the mat. So it should look something like this. Again, I did cut mine about 11 inches in height, and it is 12 inches in width. So let's load that into the machine and then start cutting that. Again, you guys, you need to cut the red foil. So here's the red foil here. The red part is facing the sticky part of this mat. I did cut that off camera, and you can see here it is cut. We've got a little design there. And we need to do the same thing for the gold as well. So don't forget to cut all of these and make sure you are alternating between the correct colored foil that you want. And always put the shiny side facing the sticky part of the mat. So it's been 3 hours. My book is fully pressed. I took it out. This is what it's looking like. It's so freaking cool. So yeah, I really love it. I think it came out so pretty. I did iron on the back part. This is what it's looking like. Very cool. I love the colors. I think it came out beautifully. I did do the spine as well, off camera. I am gonna iron on the front cover with you guys and kind of give you the lay of the land on how to do it. So I weeded out these designs already. I will say that this little filigree thing, fuck that thing. I hated that thing. You guys are probably gonna hate that too when you're weeding this out. It was a bit of a challenge to weed all of it out, but I also weeded out the gold and the red foil as well. So what we want to do here is set our mini press iron to medium heat. Get your black design here and lay it on a flat surface. Then get your gold, and I kind of had a stand here, but you want to basically center this as best as you can and fit it into the design. Once you do smooth it out, it does take a little bit of finessing. You kind of are probably going to be there for a minute, so if you need to pause, please feel free. So I'm just scratching here to make sure that it is stuck together. And we're going to lift this up, trying to keep both of them intact in the exact same place. So it should look something like this. So now we're going to lay our book down, and we're going to place it on the book and try to center it as best as you can. Once you're happy with where it's placed, you need to carefully remove the gold layer of this design. You can see here I'm kind of using my fingers trying to hold that black part in place. You don't want it to move, so be very careful. If you tap it, be sure to start all over because you want it to be exactly where you want it, or this whole thing is going to flop. So I'm going to go ahead and start ironing that on. Like I do with all of my ironing on decals, I always start in the center and then work my way out. So start in the center, up and right, up and down, I apologize, and then work your way out to the left and the right. Just be slow, you guys. Take your time. Make sure you're hitting every part of this design. This is a cold peel HTV, so you have to let it sit for about maybe 5 minutes. I don't know. until it's cool before you peel it off. Because if you try to peel it off while it's hot, some of it will lift, and you don't want that. So you can see here, even the girl, she kind of has a bubble on her. I don't know if you can see, but I do get some parchment paper, a clean piece of parchment paper, and then I hit that design with my mini press iron again. And that will smooth everything out. You see that bubble's gone now. So, all right. So now we're going to go ahead and get that gold template design and place it exactly on top of the black. Again, try to center it as best as you can. Make it fit into one another. And then we'll iron directly onto it. You don't need to use a sheet of parchment paper in between. I feel like the reason why I do that is if I'm ironing on foil onto foil, that's when I'll use parchment paper in between. I do see a lot of binders doing it all the time in between every iron. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it, but that's weird. So yeah, I'm just gonna iron directly on. Again, go slow. You saw here I started in the center. I'm not editing this part because I want to show you guys how quick and easy it really is to iron these on. I know a lot of people have trouble doing this. I don't know why. Just start in the center, go up and down in the very center, and then work your way out to the left and right. Take your time and try to hit every part of that design. Maybe people are having issues because they're not hitting the entire design. That's all I gotta say. I don't know. So once you feel happy with it and you feel like it's down, I'm doing this little technique. I take both hands and I press kind of firmly down, and I kind of do like a shimmy down the design. So for this foil, it is a hot peel, so you can peel it off immediately. So again, this is purely unedited. This is how quick I laid this foil down, and it came out nice. I don't know. If you do have any lifting, you can lay parchment paper down and hit it with the iron again. Just be very, very quick when you do that. But this was looking like so far. I freaking love it so much. But we do need to put that red foil on the female character here. So I have it weeded out here. I'm just going to place it right on top of her. Try to fit it as best as you can. And then I'm going to use parchment paper this time because I don't want to melt any of the other foil around it that we already ironed on. So get parchment paper, lay it down, and try to stay basically on this design only. Try to stay in that area. Don't go out to the edges because you know how there's like a plastic film where this design is at. Try to stay on the red part of the foil only. I've noticed if you do iron onto the plastic film that's laying on top of, like, let's say a gold piece of foil, there'll be like an indentation of that plastic sheet. So again, these are hot peel foils, so you can peel this off immediately. And of course, I'm going to go over it again with parchment paper and iron on top of it really quick. So it should look something like this. Oh my god, it is so cool. My copy of Alchemized. So cool. I hope you guys like it. It's pretty awesome. And again, the end papers are done. The page edges are beautiful. So what we need to do now is paint the charm for this book. If you guys don't want to add a charm, you don't have to. I like adding a charm, but you don't have to. Because this is charmless. I did buy some charms. I bought these charms off of Amazon. It's like an alchemy, like skull, like a bird skull charm. It looks pretty cool. It does come in a pack like this, so if you guys want, you can go online and find a different charm if you don't want this one. I just thought it fit perfectly, and I think it's pretty cool. So we'll go into my garage. I'm going to put this on my little jewelry stand holder. I do use a paper clip to hold the charm and let it dangle in place. We're going to use a flat gray primer from Rust-Oleum, and we're going to prime this charm first. Again, you guys, try to make sure you're hitting every crevice of this charm. You see, I do spin my jewelry holder around to paint this as well. Again, this jewelry holder is in the material list as well. And you're going to want to let this sit for about 15 to 20 minutes to let it dry. So now we're going to move on to the high gloss black paint, again from Rust-Oleum. I like a glossy charm. I like a shiny charm. If you want to do matte, you can. I'm doing black and glossy. Again, just trying to hit every crevice, every corner of that charm. Really make sure you get every part. Because if you don't, you will be able to tell. So I'm going to let this dry. I think I waited 3 to 6 hours, somewhere in between there, for it to dry. So once it's dry, we're going to move on to the clear coat. This is gloss clear. It seals and protects and revitalizes from Rust-Oleum. So we're just going to coat it. Again, I'm going to let this sit overnight. It is nighttime when I did this. It was like 11 at night in my garage. So I'm just going to paint this really quick and let it dry overnight, 3 to 6 hours, I would say. So this is what it's looking like. It is dry. So now we're going to go ahead and get all of our little gadgets here. You're going to need a jump ring, a lobster claw, and a crimp. Again, all of these in the material list. So I'm going to take the jump ring with some needle nose pliers and open it. And we're going to feed that crimp on there and the lobster claw on there as well. And then we'll close that jump ring. Pretty easy. Open the lobster claw and add the charm. And bam, you got a cute little ribbon charm thingamajig. Alright, so this is personal preference. You guys don't have to cut your ribbon if you don't want to. If you want to keep it long, you can. If you want to cut it short, you can. It's up to you. If you don't want a ribbon, you don't need to put one on. It's up to you. So I cut mine a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and get the charm. I kind of pre-crimp it a little bit here. And then just align it. Try to make sure it is center and square as possible. And then crimp it. I do bend the teeth over to make sure that this motherfucker ain't going nowhere. Because the last thing I want is that thing flying off. So this is what it's looking like. I love it. I think it's so cool. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this Alchemised Rebind tutorial. If you create this bind, please tag me. I'd love to see your version. And a quick reminder, this tutorial and all templates are for personal use only, so please don't sell or resell any books made from the materials in this video. And if you'd like to continue and make the custom case to go along with this book, be sure to subscribe to Flare Bindery Tutorials. All the links are under this video. It is a monthly subscription where you'll learn how to make this case and many others just like it. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and happy bookbinding. Bye!